If anybody disagrees, then you're welcome to disagree with me. But I think that most folks
Will you sit
will.
there and watch that ball until it hits that again? I'm going to stand over here taking
Yeah. You know, so these are things. You know, how many of you when you were kids you had the Mexican jumping beans? Yeah, those are kind of neat. I saw some not too long ago. The first time I've seen them in probably 20 years or something. But you know, I guess there's a little worm in those beans or something is what makes those jump around. Anyway, thinking about cause and effect. Okay, difficulties with Hume. One can have knowledge of the existence of the simple and complex ideas that are in one's mind. One cannot know if these ideas really match up with or are caused by anything that may exist outside of the mind. So he kind of, to me, Hume undercuts himself a little bit, because at one point he's arguing, well, you can't prove cause and effect. But then he turns right around and he's using the same principles to discuss things himself. So why did you even go there? I don't know. But that's where he went. Alright? So you can't talk about things outside anymore, because you can't prove cause and effect. So how can you prove the cause of your own sense impressions? Do you see what I'm saying? You can't even talk about that, because you can't say that was an effect of anything outside. Can't prove cause and effect. So he kind of shoots himself in the foot in a way. Alright? But hey, it sounded good at the time. Okay. So who are my empiricists so far? David Hume. Who are my rationalists?
Descartes and Birch.
Spinoza. Not Espinoza, Spinoza. There are Espinozas. I used to know an Espinoza. So, just Spinoza. In fact, I knew a couple of Espinozas. One of them was a superior and one of them was a subordinate soldier. Alright. Spinoza, Baruch Spinoza. Okay, this is good. So far you're making the grade. Hopefully it'll turn out for you. Now, we should be due an exam next Tuesday, right?
Yes.
So I should have a study guide for you next class. Okay. June 3rd will be our next class. Yeah. That'll be the study guide. Okay. We'll get into the material. Okay. Another difficulty is there is such a limitation to knowledge that Hume is only a few steps away from skepticism. Okay, and that's the view that certain knowledge or certain kinds of knowledge are impossible to acquire. He's also moving in the direction of solipsism, which we talked about with earlier with Descartes. That kind of, well, can't prove cause and effect and this and that, so you're kind of backing into your own little universe there. The skepticism thing is probably a legitimate deal, but the reality is, are you limited in the kind of knowledge that you have? Probably. And I don't mean that you have, I mean, you're all smart, you're bright. I imagine you're all ace in algebra, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I expect that you're all bright students, and I just assume that in my classes. But the reality is that even if you're a genius, you're limited. You're limited by time. You're limited by space. You're limited by what you've been able to experience, or what's already in your brain, whichever the two. Okay, you're limited. We have some sort of limitations. Kant's going to, one of the next guys we're going to look at, he's going to pick up on that. He's going to pick up on those limitations. And he's going to make a big deal about them. And he's going to show just exactly, kind of give us an idea of what we can know. And I'm kind of like the author of your book a little bit. I'm sort of a Kantian in some degree. Not, I don't put my pom-poms on and say, ooh, Kant, go. But, you know, I think Kant, he grabs hold of something that he makes a lot of sense with. And your author of your book actually has a license plate that says I Kant. It looks like I can't if you don't know what it is, but it's I Kant Immanuel Kant is his license plate. So obviously he's very good Kant. pronounced Barclay. Alright, don't ask me why. It just is. George Barclay. Okay, that's just how they pronounced it back in the day. Alright, he was an Irish bishop of an Anglican church. And he is the author of what we're going to call empirical idealism. So this is one guy that you're going to get very easily confused and want to lump him in to a camp that he doesn't belong in. He is not a rationalist. He is not a transcendental idealist. Okay, he is an empiricist. Put him and keep him under that category. Don't draw a big line yet. Alright, we're still talking about empiricism. Empiricists. There's three major British empiricists. Locke, Hume, and Berkeley is our third one that we're going to talk about. And the reason I kind of have him third is because he is so different from the first two that you've got to talk about him on his own level. But he is an empiricist. And he's one that I see students often confuse because of the way it sounds and the way it comes out. It sounds like, he is either a rationalist or sometimes it sounds like you want to confuse him with transcendental idealism, not to be confused. If I say who is an idealist, I want you to say this guy. This is your idealist. So you might want to underline idealism because he is the idealist. But to clarify it, it's empirical idealism as opposed to another form of idealism that we'll see next. Alright? He has the empirical notion that the only entities that exist are finite and infinite perceivers. Now, that's a whole lot of, what did I just say? What does that mean? Somebody tell me in other terms what I just said there. There are only finite and infinite perceivers. What does that mean?
There's only people who watch things. There is no action. There is no full cue. There are only people watching the game. There's nobody playing.
Kind of. Yeah, I'll run with that. I think you're onto it. Yeah, go ahead.
When the tree falls in the forest, does it really make a noise if nobody's there to hear it?
Okay, yeah, the old, if the tree falls in the woods and there's nobody around to hear it, does it make a sound thing? Okay, yeah. I don't know where that one came from, but it makes sound waves, right? It makes sound waves, but does it make a sound? That's good. Okay, and Berkeley would say, well, in one sense, he might say if no one, quote unquote, if you tried to take it to the extreme of no one was around to watch it, he would say, well, no, because there is no tree, there is no forest, in a sense. But in his defense, he has kind of a backup here. See, because he says only finite and infinite perceivers. Now, who are the infinite? Now, Berkeley's a what? Put him in context here. He's an Irish bishop. Okay, so he's of the Christian persuasion. All right, so he's thinking theologically. He's theological. He's a theologian, and he thinks in terms of there is a God. Okay, so he is a theist. We call those. All right, he believes there's a God. All right, so God, being all-knowing, is going to perceive. So yes, that tree made a sound because God was there to hear it. So ultimately, with Berkeley, see, he's got a fallback. See what I mean? So it's difficult. You have to put him in his context to understand him. And that's what I was trying to tell you earlier, is make sure he's consistent with his own beliefs. He's not saying there's no forest, because in fact there is a forest, because God perceives the forest. But it's more of, if God was not trying to convey something to someone else, it's really more of a medium, more of an exchanging. It's almost, I put it in terms of physical reality is like a medium of communication. It's like a means of communicating things to people. Is another way I look at it. I don't find that that's always helpful to people, but that's the way I see Berkeley. He is saying that the physical universe is his means of communicating with other beings. Not just, talking all the time, but he communicates by the physical reality. But it's only in existence by perception.